of our readings from the Harmony of the Gospels, in which we are reading through the single narrative account of the four Gospels having been spliced together. So we have the author George Knight to thank us for this. And so if you enjoy these scripture readings outlined this way, I encourage you to get your own copy of the book, A Simplified Harmony of the Gospels. You can find it on Amazon and on Logos. Logos is the Bible software that I'm using for these scripture readings. And we're going to continue with our third day of reading through the arrest, the trial, the crucifixion, and resurrection of Jesus. And so today we're picking up right where we left off from yesterday, which is now Jesus has been officially sentenced and condemned by Pilate. Pilate did not want to do this, but he gave in to the peer pressure of the raging crowd that was turning into a riot. And so Pilate has washed his hands of the guilt of sentencing Jesus to death, and yet that is the very sentence that is still given, and he releases Barabbas back into the public audience. And so that being said, we resume our readings with Jesus being mocked by the soldiers, and as always, feel free to grab your own Bibles and a pen and perhaps a notepad and take note of the individual scriptures that we're reading from. That way you can highlight and annotate as you see fit for your own studies and readings. But let's begin our reading for today. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the headquarters and gathered the whole company around him. They stripped him and dressed him in a scarlet robe. They twisted a crown out of thorns and put it on his head, and placed a reed in his right hand. And they knelt down before him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews!" Then they spit at him, took the reed, and kept hitting him on the head. When they had mocked him, they stripped him of the purple robe and put his clothes on him and led him out to crucify him. As they led him away, they seized Simon, a Cyrenian, the father of Alexander and Rufus, and laid the cross on him to carry behind Jesus. A great multitude of the people followed him, including women who were mourning and lamenting him. But turning to them, Jesus said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and your children. Look, the days are coming when they will say, 'Blessed are the barren, the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' Then they will begin to say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For if they do these things when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry?" When they arrived at the place called the Skull, they crucified him there. They gave him wine mixed with gall to drink, but when he tasted it, he would not drink it. Now it was 9 a.m. when they crucified him. And they sat down and were guarding him there, and Pilate also had a sign lettered and put on the cross. Above his head, they put the charge against him in writing, the inscription, "Jesus the Nazarene, the King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read this sign because the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. So the chief priests of the Jews said to Pilate, "Don't write the King of the Jews, but that he said, 'I am the King of the Jews.'" Pilate replied, "What I have written, I have written." When the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes and divided them into 4 parts, a part for each soldier. They also took the tunic, which was seamless, woven in one piece from the top. So they said to one another, "Let's not tear it, but toss for it, to see who gets it." They did this to fulfill the scripture that says, "They divided my clothes among themselves, and for my clothing they cast lots." And this is what the soldiers did. And then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, because they do not know what they are doing." And many women were there, looking on from a distance, who had followed Jesus from Galilee and ministered to him. Standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple he loved standing there, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." And then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour the disciple took her into his home. And the people stood watching, and even the leaders kept scoffing, yelling insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "Ha! The one who would demolish the sanctuary and build it in 3 days, save yourself by coming down from the cross." And the soldiers also mocked him, and they came offering him sour wine. In the same way, the chief priests with the scribes and elders mocked him and said, "He saved others, but he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross, and we will believe in him. He has put his trust in God. Let God rescue him now, if he wants him. For he said, 'I am God's son.'" That will conclude our readings for today. We will pick up there with Jesus on the cross as the mockings continue, and we'll begin reading of the exchange that Jesus has with the two criminals. God bless.